definition of cation, or the etymology of cation, is to go down. Kata, down, to go, inai, right? Of Proto-Indo-European root of ei, to go, and yeah. All right. Now quickly, let's go to anion. A negatively charged ion, which move towards the anode. And watch this. Up, ana, up, instead of kata. So we go ana, like ana lima, we go up, plus go. Right? So let's look at this now. Cathode. Negative pole of an electric current. Away, down. Kata, down. And of course, anode. Way upward. Away. So let's stop sharing here. Let's do a board real quick. If I can find my eraser, there we go. So here's the spirit. Here's the Father, right? The Father has to incarnate into the Mother and return back to spirit, right? So the Father, if the Father is again spirit and the Mother is matter, but it's really water too, right? So the water at the bottom of the valley, or the V, right? And the Father is coming down from it. So spirit. So this is why the Father is the cation, which goes to the cathode. And the Mother, the magnetic, because the Father is the electric downfall, right? Of positive electricity, right? Because positive electricity always falls down. And then the passive end of the stroke, which is always negative, right? Rises up. So if the Father again is the cation, goes to the cathode, which is the bottom part. The Mother is the opposite. She is the anion, going to the top, the anode, the peak of the mountain. So we have to take this into account when I'm making this comparison. So the Mother, again, is negatively charged. And maybe I can bring up this real quick. Gosh, I feel versatile again. It's like I'm flexing some muscles I haven't been flexing for a while or something. But here's the yin and yang, right? So we have dielectricity and we have magnetism. But with dielectricity, this can be looked at as the electric downfall of spirit, right? And then this is rising back up. This is the anode, the negative arc. You can look at the opposite way too. You can look at black as negative and that which takes away light too. Doesn't really matter. But why I'm saying this is because, again, in this world of singularity, sometimes there's a dualistic expression, but the dualism is one. That's why there's no use saying a woman is better or a man is better, because they come from one and they imply each other. So in that sense, yin and yang. In that sense, there is a divvying out of roles. One is positive, one is conquering, one is assertive, one is aggressive, one is goes out into the world and moves, and one is still, one is passive. Now, of course, both man and woman have this. However, it shows in your biology what more you have. You know, it shows in the physical. because the physical is the metaphysical. We always make a separation between the two, right? But when you live the physical clearly, you are living in the metaphysical. But when you're living in the physical unclearly, there's some level of disconnect to the metaphysical. So we have to stop looking at physical and metaphysical as separate. They're one. So it happens to be that for me, the positive arc of the stroke is more expressed. But I could have been the opposite, you know? And if I was the opposite, I would have held on to that role too. So these kinds of things. And again, we can explain this with chemistry. That's what I'm telling you. Biology, physics. What is it, electrolysis or something? Right? The shifts of electrons. So, here, let's do this. So, the man is the cation, because again, he is the spirit falling into matter. And that's why man falls in love with material, because man is innately an objectifier. He falls in love with that which is material. Whereas the woman, she falls in love with something beyond material. Right? The cover of the man is not enough. Well, for some women it's enough, but what I'm saying is, generally speaking, women look beyond the cover. Men, they like the material, they like the object. So, of course, not all men are supremely shallow, but men are, in some sense, more shallow than women. And this is not a bad or good thing, it's just how we're made. So what women are attracted to is a man with spirit. Because this is what her polarity is going towards. She's coming from the material arc back to spirit. So obviously she's attracted to, her pull is to spirit. Whereas a man is pulled more down as a figure of speech, right? So it's these kinds of things we need to take into account when we talk a man and woman, is that there's somewhat of an originating law, right? The law of the origin. And some of these laws, it's impossible to bend. The very trying to bend it is what causes disease, is what causes psychosis, all of these things. So we have to remember that, again, even though I happen to be in a masculine body, there is still a passivity in me that is watching, and then from that passivity arises action. So there's that there in that sense, of course. However, on a biological level, on a surface level, on a gene expression level, I happen to be a man, and I must accept that, or I must question it and look down and see, okay, yeah, you see what I'm saying? To some degree, you have to be, you have to see eye to eye. You have to see what you are. So there's that aspect to it too. That again, you have a God-given chemical, biochemical, physics role. So there's that. Oh, and a great example for this is a euphemism we use, is that people go down on each other, right? But really, men go down on girls. It's kind of weird to say a girl went down on a guy. Okay, I don't want to use any more provocative terms, but if you examine the language, even in the language it implies we are a cathode. We are an untamable cat, right? A lion. Whereas the negative principle is drawn to a different vibration and likes to mirror that vibration, just like the moon is a mirror. It's a negative reflective principle. Whereas the positive, the cat is going and she's like, I don't care if you stop me. You see the difference? So that's why for me, and not just for me, generally speaking, men should be like cats. I don't know if you get the analogy I'm making here. That men should be untamed, right? And at the same time, women should be tamed by he who is ethical, by he who is responsible. So that's where the key is, right? That you have to be with the opposite principle that you trust. So I'm not saying be tamed by everyone, no. But I'm saying the woman's strength, the man's strength is conquer, the woman's strength is being conquested, right? Being the land that the father impregnates. So again, in this sense, even in our terminology, go down on someone, right? It implies, again, the man being the cathode going to the, or the cation going to the cathode, the spirit falling into matter. So he goes down. I hope that's clear. And so, yeah, so really, that means girls go up, right? So you could say you go up on a guy. That would make more sense when it comes to technically speaking. So again, the anion is the one that smoothens out the man. Because what is the anion? What is the negative principle? Is a return back to equilibrium. So a man, a cation, essentially disrupts the equilibrium. What you could call it radiation, you can call it creation, whatever you want to say, right? So he creates the spark. The woman, I guess, puts it out in some sense, but she returns the spark or the electrical spark back to equilibrium, right? She's the rest. She's the evening, the evening, right? So again, nothing bad on a woman, nothing bad on a man. It's just spiritual, if you want to call it that. You know, it's just physical. It's just scientific. You know, it's in the words. It's in the verb. You know, and who knows? Yeah, maybe our verbs are all wrong too. I'm willing to go there, but still, you know, like biologically speaking, I look down and I'm confronted with some facts. But in today's society, women do go down on men, meaning women are subjugating men. Men are acting like dogs when they're really cats, and they're pretending to be tamed. Does that make sense? Because today, with this, you know, rampant feminism, transgenderism, what do you call it? Homophobic behavior, all this kind of stuff. And the thing is, I don't castigate those people. For instance, there are people that are actually born with like an extra Y chromosome or whatever, right? You know, and perhaps someone is just gay, astrologically wise, whatever, some weird angle, right? My problem is pride. Do you get the difference? My problem is clapping in class, you know, in a class of children and telling them, oh, I'm gay, and then everyone claps for them, and someone says, I'm straight, and it's like silence. Why are we proud? Why are we encouraging something that should be natural? You see what I'm saying? The only encouragement comes when you do something unnatural or when you want to keep doing it. So I'm just against encouraging it, right? And again, the reason why I'm talking about this is because men are being encouraged to be weak, to be victims, to be tamed. And again, it's not in a man's nature to be tamed, right? When a man is real honest with himself, he wants to go to the edge of the world. So again, at the same, in that sense, psychologically speaking, again, in today's world, a man is very, very docile, tamed, you know? And when I say docile, the opposite is often looked at as violence. I'm not saying go out and be violent. When I say go out untamed and wild, that doesn't mean be unethical, right? But I'm arguing that it's the most ethical thing to be untamed for a man. It's the most ethical thing to be wild as a man, because that is our job. And then again, the woman comes in and smoothens out the arc, right? Offers a chance for being tamed, I suppose. And I guess it's a man's job to know at what point does he allow to be tamed, and at what point does he not? That's your decision, G. You know, it's not my decision to make for you. But I'm just saying, again, that in today's society, men take it in the butthole, anal domination. And I'm saying that needs to stop. Men need to know how to put the foot down. Because if men don't know how to put the foot down, it's over for the world. And when I say put the foot down, it does not mean to be a domineering a tyrant. But I'm saying when something is logical, you must step. You see what I'm saying? There is no option. If something is true, you have to take the step. You have no choice. If you didn't take the step, if you didn't take the logical step, that would be illogical. That would be unethical. That would be wrong. So that's why I'm saying, again, man is supposed to have a level of wildness to him, a little bit of edginess to him. He can't be too low value. He can't be too unsure of himself. So it doesn't mean he should be cocky. He should still be humble. However, again, he should be able to not be so afraid to express himself. And along with weak men, now what's happening is women are coming in and trying to do a man's job because the man is so weak. Does that make sense? So it's not necessarily a bad thing about women. I entirely think it's a man's responsibility, because men, they need to be strong for the woman. Who will protect the woman if the man is not strong? So in that sense, we need to make it clear that the women don't need to make up for us. And maybe I can share a video here. Give me just 1 second, guys. Feminism is a scam. I'm going to download this. Feminism is a scam. Is it downloading? Feminism. Or maybe I should just look at it through this. Let's see if you guys can see it.
Feminism is a scam.
No, it looks weird.
Feminism is a scam. A few years ago, I was an angry, blue-haired.
So this is a girl that used to be a feminist, and she's speaking out against it now.
Feminism.
Can I turn this sound on without?
Feminism is.
Try to. Feminism is a scam. A few years ago, I was an you guys can probably hear it.
Privilege was real, and that I was a victim of the wage gap. Now that
how should I do this?
Feminism is a scam. A few years ago, I was an angry, blue-haired feminist. I once believed that male privilege was real and that I was a victim of the wage gap. Now that I understand the true motives of feminism, I know that this...
Oh, I know how to do it. I know.
Feminism is a scam. A few years
ago,
I was an angry, blue-haired feminist. I once believed that male privilege was real and that I was a victim of the wage gap. Now that I understand, feminism is a scam. A few years ago, I was an angry...
Now I'm going to check YouTube to see if you guys can see. Let's check my audio quality and see. All right, just give me 1 second, guys. Oh, and I can check the chat. I keep forgetting. Oh, I'm just not in the habit of checking chat. One second, guys. Okay, I think people hear it. So let's do it.
Feminism is a scam. A few years ago, I was an angry, blue-haired feminist.
Oh, I can check the chat. I keep forgetting.
I once believed that male privilege.
Whoops.
A few years ago, I was an angry, blue-haired.
Yeah, I don't know.
feminist.
Oh, I can check the chat. Let's just do the audio.
Feminism is a scam. A few years ago, I was an angry, blue-haired feminist. I once believed that male privilege was real and that I was a victim of the wage gap. Now that I understand the true motives of feminism, I know that this could not be further from the truth, and that modern-day feminism is a war on true masculinity. Before women had the right to vote, most were stay-at-home wives, which meant they weren't working jobs and couldn't be taxed. Our overlords didn't like that. Rockefeller started funding feminist campaigns in media, and as a consequence of the movement, women started entering the workforce and leaving the home. Children would then be separated from their parents and sent to Rockefeller-funded schools to be indoctrinated by the state. All of this ultimately disrupting the family unit at its core. Feminism is defined as the belief in social, economic, and political equality of the sexes. But in the West, I must ask, what rights do men have that women don't? Modern feminists are convincing women that hookup culture, using hormonal birth control, and not shaving is liberation. That toxic masculinity is prevalent and the patriarchy must be dismantled. Through movies and media, we're taught that working for the man, climbing the corporate ladder, and paying tax is more empowering and valuable than raising the next generation. Women have lost touch with our natural loving instincts, and birth rates are plummeting. Men and women are not the same. And by protesting for equality of outcome rather than opportunity, feminists are demonizing and emasculating men.
Wow. So did you hear what she ended on? She said by basically capitalizing on equality of outcome. That's something we touched on with Raji's discussion. Women are basically hurting, I guess, the industry. And I don't agree with the industry either. But when we move on to the next step, again, there has to be harmony. A man has to step up and do his job, and a woman has to do her job too. It's a teamwork. It's a team effort. It's one ship. We have to realize that, right? And a man is the positive principle likes to be captain. Nothing against the man, nothing against the woman, but the positive principle likes to be the admiral of the ship. It's these kinds of things, right? So the girl brought up the fact that this feminism movement was really a tax thing, was the government wanting to tax the woman, right? Because before, women were essentially tax-free. They didn't have to work the job to afford to pay for the child. But now the man can't make enough to even take care of the child without having the woman work. So a lot of the things that we think are working in our favor are actually working against us. It doesn't matter what psychological conditioning you have. When you just look at the facts, sometimes it's very apparent. You see what I'm saying? So let's see if we can find another video here. Some more beautiful women. And yeah, I just wanted to include a woman's point of view, because I'm pointing out here that it's not just me that's thinking this, that things are not balanced. And because people are afraid, because women are afraid to be women and men are afraid to be men. So let's see if I can. You know, it's already almost 7:30, so I think this will be probably the last thing I show you guys. Well, actually, let's see if I have any other points. So I'm going to save this for next time because, oh my gosh, there's so many things to go over. So let me turn the light on for a second. Here we go. Oh, and another thing that's interesting about cats and dogs, right, is again, the dog matches the vibration of the owner, but the cat has its own entire, independent vibration. So the cat, and Charlie and Colleen have figured this out too, a cat can't, you can't control the cat. You have to let it hunt. It's a hunter by its nature. Unlike a dog, because for a dog, you can domesticate it in such a way where you completely prevent it from hunting. Like if I tell my dogs, no, like when there's like a chick coming into my property or something, or a chicken next to the fence, I'll be like, no, and they stop. But with a cat, you say no, and chances are it's not going to stop. So in the same sense, men have this built-in mechanism, this built-in disagreeable mechanism. Women are really good at agreeing. And this is not a bad or good thing. I'm just saying our innate natures. So there's that. And again, a cat really goes and conquers lots of land. A dog does too. A dog gets territorial too. But again, if the owner is not as territorial, that can stop the dog. Whereas cats are territorial whether you want them to be or not. Like if they want to be, they will be territorial and you won't be able to stop them, that kind of a thing. Unless you like close the windows so they can't escape kind of a thing. Which introduces a whole nother weird situation. Because again, cats, I think dogs can be somewhat contained. The negative principle is containment. But again, the positive principle is leaving containment. So in a relationship, this is another key thing. I think this is the last thing I'll end up on. The cat must not enable the dog. So basically, for a dog is a reflection of its owner, not necessarily for the cat. So a dog, a dog by how the owner trains the dog. So all the mannerisms that the dog has is the owner. Does that make sense? It's almost a reflection. It's a mirroring principle. And again, that's what I'm saying. Girls are like, they're mirrors. Men, on the other hand, are like cats. They don't stay mirrors. Meaning they have their own ideas, they have their own philosophies, they have their own, their own passion, away from the passion of the collective. Away, like a man can, I think, almost entirely squelch his his need for validation from the collective and go on his own. Whereas a woman always is somewhat of a diplomat. Even if she is really far out, still she is kind of the intermediary to the world, to the emotions, to the family unit, all of these things. So in this sense, right, if the cat comes in as the role of the owner, right, the cat can't enable the dog. Because the dog, again, will reflect the cat's training. You see what I'm saying? That the dog innately is passive. However, the cat, again, is innately active, is innately the programmer, and the dog, I guess, somewhat is a deprogrammer. Right? either just takes the program of the cat or destroys it, one or the other. So again, in that sense, the cat can't enable the dog. And we're at 7:30 here, so we're going to continue on next time with cation males and anion females. Join us on Charlie Freak's Rumble. We're going live with I think some rock songs today. And let's see. Yeah, please support me and Raji on Patreon. I think the link's below. You can also support Charlie Freak and the Animal Sanctuary, which is where I'm tied to right now at the same time. So, and that will support me as well. So you can, there's many avenues that you can provide support. Please help us when you can, because yeah, it's hard to keep producing good free content in a somewhat unforgiving world. But I think as we're going here, it's getting more and more forgiving. Things are really opening up, right? Oh, we have to start with the Queen next time. That's what we have to start with. I forgot. But sayonara.